Hey everybody, this is Minion Soldier, and this is the Lazy Pirate Gets Owned show. No, so what I'm doing right now is I'm challenging myself to kind of find the drug lab in the dark. Now, of course, the drug lab doesn't have a nicely lit landing area, so it doesn't really show up all that well. And of course, I am trying to find it just based off of distances in the dark. Going to be a bit of a challenge, but I've decided that I am going to stick to it. But the point of this video is what is going to happen once I do find the site. Because I have made a series of lazy mistakes leading up to this video. You know, I had shown the heavy armor and I said, yeah, I'm going to take it off because I kind of want to have a better view, blah, blah, blah. And probably not the best idea. I was carrying a Gallant Energy rifle because I thought, well, high capacity magazine, what's the harm in that? Well, the projectile weapons do hit harder and they do shred through armor better. I mean, of course, you do have that high capacity magazine in a Gallant Energy rifle, but there's a cost to be paid in probably armor penetration and damage. Versus a projectile weapon has a smaller clip, but probably shreds through armor a little bit better. And if I had moved down to that lighter armor, I probably should be using a projectile weapon rather than a Gallant Energy rifle. And these are all reasonable assumptions to make, right? These are all reasonable conclusions to make. But the thing of it is, I'm going like, oh no, well, I want to go out and I want to find this drug lab site, so it's no big deal. I'll just do it later. I won't think about these things right now. I'll just push that all aside and I'll get to it later. And there's a number of things that, quite honestly, I have, realized that are broken in the game. And I've just kind of pushed them aside, said, I'll deal with that later. And I'm sure that some people can relate to what I'm expressing right now. For instance, I'll give you an idea. Now, someone had said in the comments, well, you hit button 3, bro, and you turn on the lights to your ship. I know. The problem is that's not working for me. For some reason, there's some kind of thing going on with my controls right now where some of the controls are working, some of them are not working now. I'm not sure if some of this is bugs in the game. I've kind of gone around and looked a bit on Reddit. I haven't found people with similar issues, and I kind of come in, I try to fix it for about 5-10 minutes, and I go, nah, I'd rather play the game. And I've kind of gotten into a point where not only are my light controls not working, targeting on my ship, targeting friendly targets or targeting even unfriendly targets has seemingly broken for me with no apparent fix, though realistically, I have not invested the time to properly fix these things. I have been lazy, and I shouldn't have. Now, here I have finally found the drug lab. Of course, I had to wait until the sun rose on the area because, once again, no landing lights. I mean, what kind of reputable drug lab doesn't advertise? Now, at this point, I probably even should have been a little bit careful to see if the mission to visit this drug lab was up, because I had been surveying this area easily for at least 45 minutes trying to find this location. So had there been someone else immediately in the area, I probably would have seen them, but who knows, maybe they were using stealth mode. But the thing of it is I wasn't in stealth mode, right? I was being lazy. I was being negligent, and because of that, I opened myself up, and someone just happened to be there. Either, they were sitting there in stealth mode waiting for someone to land, or they just happened, like the mission maybe just popped up and they're like, oh, let's go get the drugs. And oh, here's a cutlass parked on the ground. I'm going to go ahead and kill this cutlass. I don't know. I mean, it does seem like this happened pretty quickly, but I didn't see anything on scanners. So maybe it was just that confluence of events. They just happened to come in at the perfect time, or maybe they were in fact lying in wait. I surveyed the area visually pretty carefully trying to find this site, so I think I would have seen a ship parked on the ground, but Maybe they were just hovering up in the sky just outside of my sensor range in stealth mode. I don't know. But, like, I'm not mad about this in terms of being mad at another player, or I'm going to go on Spectrum and be like, oh, life is hard. No, this was my mistake. This was a series of my mistakes. And the whole heavy armor thing, you know, that I was talking about, where I kind of took off the heavy armor because I was like, oh, well, this medium armor is a lot easier to get around in. Even after in the previous video I'd said I probably should be wearing heavy armor for doing this kind of stuff. And then sure enough, I run inside, I think, okay, well, maybe I can get this guy back by setting up an ambush. And even though I do get a bunch of hits on him, he just shreds right through me with a projectile weapon because I was using an energy weapon. I mean, I made a series of mistakes, I'm not mad at the other player. This is just some dude playing the game. I happened to just be caught flat-footed, and I had made that situation even worse by being lazy. And so, lesson learned. Lesson learned. Energy weapons? No. Shred them with projectile weapons. That's what I've learned. Shred them with projectile weapons. Wear your heavy armor if there's ever a possibility that you're going to get into a gunfight. Even if it's a 1% chance, put on that heavy armor. One of the things that I thought of immediately after this was like, holy shit, man. If I had been smart enough to actually buy grenades when I was going on my spending spree, if I had bought grenades, I could have just rolled a grenade into that airlock as soon as the door opened. That's one of the things I could have done. And, sure, there are other things that are coming into the game later, like claymores, better medical stuff. I could have been playing with an NPC acting as my bodyguard, and I could have let him take the first few hits, and then I could have shot the guy. A whole bunch of things. But in the end, like, what happened didn't happen because another player was being a dick. He was simply playing the game. And what happened wasn't a result of, exploits or lag or, hacks or any bullshit. It was because there was a long chain of mistakes that I had been making, lazy mistakes, that led to that conclusion. This wasn't like this, like, you have to own your mistakes. These were all my mistakes. That was all my laziness that created that situation. And so, like, when you have an experience like this, it's not like, oh, well, time to get on Spectrum and like, why are people shooting each other? I'm just trying to play. No, think about it. Like, take that as a learning experience and say, you know what? How did I allow that to happen? Because there are things that you did that allow that to happen, whether you want to admit it or not. Like, this has been since day one. There's open world PvP in this game. Since day one, we've all known this. Yet there are people who religiously get on the forums and, try to say, oh, no, it shouldn't be here. It shouldn't be here. Oh, no, this should be this way and this should be that way. And it should never be like that. But, in another thread where someone complains about the way a ship is built or the way the guns are laid out, oh, no, the way CIG is doing it is fine, and you should just shut up and not complain. Now let me go back to my other thread where I'm complaining about PvP. Yeah, I think we've seen enough of that type of commentary on the forums as well. But the point is that the situation that I ended up in was of my own making. It was not because, this dude's hacking or this dude's just being a dick. It ends up being because I was ill-prepared and I was being lazy. That's how I got into that situation. Even after I did a video where I was like, if I'm doing this kind of stuff, I should be wearing heavy armor, right? And then in the very next video, I'm like, well, this kind of impairs my view when I'm trying to interact with panels, and, I don't really like it, so I'm just going to go back to the medium, blah, blah, blah. And then, wouldn't you know it, the very next situation I get into, maybe that armor cost me my life. maybe that's what happened. I mean, I know I got some good hits on him, but I was using an energy weapon and not a projectile weapon. So I was like, oh, well, high magazine capacity, that's ideal. Not always, because that dude just shredded right through my medium armor. So, you know, now I have this practical experience. It's time to learn from it. It's time to say, you know what, yeah, there are some lazy quick shortcuts that I can take out, but, you know, those chickens can and will come home to roost. So maybe it's better to take a much safer and more practical approach to playing the game. In the end, even though we debate various points here and there, one of the most important things to learn is you can't stop the tide from coming in. You can only learn to swim. The game is going to be what the game is going to be. And we can try to influence it this way, we can try to influence it that way. Sometimes successfully, sometimes unsuccessfully. Some of it's subjective, some of it's objective. But in the end, the game is simply going to be what the game is going to be. And the most important lesson to take away from this is to play the game, is to learn these lessons. It's to get in and get knocked down and then get up and learn from it. Not just go to Spectrum and be like, oh, why are people shooting each other? No, learn from those experiences. Take away practical lessons, because at some point in the future, all of this shit is going to count. And you don't want to be the guy who's like, well, it's official release now, so I'm going to start playing. So what do I need to know? You don't want to be that guy. You want to already have all those lessons learned. You want to have all that experience under your belt. You don't have to play as much as I do, but you do have to play. You have to get in there. You have to roll the dice. You have to take your chances. You have to take your lumps, and you have to learn your lessons. And yes, I am going to buy grenades from now on. But yeah, you got to do these things. The most important lesson is you got to play. You got to learn the game. You can't just kind of sit there and say, "Oh well, once it gets to a more stable state, I'm gonna put in my time," because you know what? There are times when I'm playing this and I'm thinking, you know what, shit, I could be easily farming up some prestige levels in a WoW right now. But I want to learn Star Citizen. I want to learn this game. I want to have all that practical experience under my belt, because at some point this is all going to count. So even though, like, I figured out a few tricks to farm up prestige really quick, I'm still here playing this game because I need to learn these things, and clearly there are some lessons that I need to learn repeatedly. But hopefully sooner or later they will stick. Anyways, that's the show for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.